Hello everyone and welcome in JS News. This is episode 4. My name is JJ. Today with me is Łukasz. Hey Łukasz.
Hey, how are you? It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here again. Let's go. What we'll be talking about this week? I see you brought Buns update. Okay.
Yeah,
We
this
got
week's was
undesign.
like pretty slow, but we have some bigger news and some smaller ones. I think you can say that.
Yes, definitely. It's gonna be funny. I'm not gonna be even saying right now what do we have to say during the show. It's gonna be okay. So let's roll the intro.
DevSpresso.
Okay, so if you
All
don't mind,
right.
I will start. I'm gonna start with the biggest
Hit it.
update this week. The biggest update this week is Bun 060 version. They released a new version of Bun. So quick recap what Bun is. It's a runtime for JavaScript. It's a direct competitor for Node and Dino. The promise is that the Bun should be fast. It's built in Zig, and it uses JSC and not V8 as Deno and Node uses V8. This one uses JSC. So it was released around 10 months ago, I think. And right now it has its biggest update yet. The biggest update in this update is a bundler. And let's talk about bundler as the last topic. And I will briefly go through other updates in this release. So they've added standalone executables. So before that, you would have to have the code and run it with bun file name. And right now you can build the executable and it will add the runtime itself in that executable so that you can run the code by just typing the file name command or something like that.
All right,
And
all right. This is something like Node.js just did, right? Because
yeah,
currently you can create exec with Node. And
I
they
think
are
you can.
bringing all environment what they need right now. Yeah.
Yes. Guess how much the file for Hello World weighs in the standalone executable from Bun.
I remember tests, probably Wesboss, I remember on Twitter posted that this single executable Node.js and Dino, they were around 80. And then because of internationalization API, he reduced that to around 60. So I don't know, let's say for Bun it's going to be 5 kilobytes. 10.
No, it's 45 megs for macOS
Yeah.
and 90 megs for Linux. It can be shrink down.
That's bad.
It can be shrink down with, like you said, internationalization, stuff like that. But right now, without the optimization techniques, it's 50 megs for macOS. That's huge. But you don't have to.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Node.js, you can reduce it somewhere around 60 megs, and there is no difference between OSs. And here 90, you said 90 for Linux?
Yeah, 90 for Linux.
That's that's literally the worst. It's like
Yeah.
Electron apps weigh 300 megs out of the box, so it's like what
But
the heck?
I guess the difference between Hello World app, which is probably 2 lines, right? And huge application that does cryptography will not have any difference in the bundle size, because the most of the bundle size is the engine itself. It's the JavaScript runtime itself.
And it's written in Zig, right?
Yeah.
So Zig, it should I expect from this kind of technologies to be easily reducible when it comes to executable files. And Zig was something that was pretty new when they started using it, I guess, something like that. There has to be a reason for that. So that's not good.
I'm not sure if Zig is young, but it's not that young. It probably has 5 years or something like that already.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that. I don't know. I would have to search for it. Let's move on with the updates from Bun 060. So yeah, we have standalone executables, they've added a way for program to check if it is executing the main file from the bun starting point. So you can use something import.meta.main to check if the current file is the entry point that started bun. I guess that's useful in some cases.
Okay.
They've added some improvements to tests. So if you run bun tests, it now reports time taken to run tests. Like, that seems like a no-brainer, right? It seems like it should have been there from the beginning. They've added skip to tests. Again, like very basic concept, skipping tests. And they've added like the write file on Linux is faster. So other updates is transpiler improvements, some added Node.js compatibility and web API compatibility. So for Node.js, they actually bun is striving to be drop-in replacements for Node. You can use like Node modules in bun. So like that's huge for them to be as compatible with Node as possible, because like that's their main selling point. Apart from being fast, it's Node.js replacement. And with that, I can move on to the biggest update from bun, which is bundler, and it's called bun bundler. Do you think it's a missed opportunity? It should be called bundler, right? Like bundler.
It's a no-brainer. It's like,
Yeah.
of course.
So they call it bun bundler. I don't know why. They don't have a good marketing team, I suppose. So again, it is supposed to be fast, and they quote like more than 200 times faster than Webpack. But Webpack is known for being slow, so like that doesn't mean much. But S-Build is known for being fast in terms of like building time, and it is almost 2 times faster than S-Build. But we're talking like I think under second performance in some examples. So if you have like 0.2 seconds versus 0.45 seconds, it doesn't like really make that much of a difference. I don't know, maybe for like huge projects, right? The 2x will
Doesn't
give you
change
some
much right now.
Yeah.
Also, this comparison, so where you don't have actually a large code base, like what this test is for. It's like this Hello World. I understand, because Hello World is a test of how small your project could be if you're like doing everything as simply as it could be done, right? This is just the size of everything, of your environment, of what you need to run your project. But all those other tests, I understand the tests. Like we are going to talk about state management today as well, and there was a test in switching rows in 1,000 rows data table, right? And this was something that was tested, how it goes. This is something, okay, this is like real test giving some information about the speed. But here, like if you're checking really the smaller possible builds and things like that, it's like it even depends on what's your testing environment. So like, okay, it's cool that you're faster. Everybody is always faster, better, stronger, as Alex says.
So like bun is fast and bun bundler is fast as well. fast, like you said. So the bundler supports 3 targets right now. It's Node, it's browser, and it's bun. So when you are using bun as target, you are gaining some magic from them, because they have a lot of optimization can be made. The bundler generates pre-transpiled files that are optimized for bun's runtime. So like it obviously creates some synergy there, and like it is like faster times faster is faster squared, right? The pre-mentioned executables are also available because of the bundler, because bundler bundles the executables. They have an API for build options. The API for build options they promise is clean and simple, as opposed to Webpack, which is notoriously complicated and huge. If you go to your like options for Webpack, it's like
my.
whoever
Don't tell
wrote
me
them,
it's like-
your company cannot fire that person anytime.
Irreplaceable developer. Irreplaceable.
Yeah, the config developer for Webpack. The tree shaking is out of the box, of course, available. And moving on to some not so great things, the only module system right now supported is ESM. And one blog post that I actually read about one guy using this for some hobby project says that it is extremely fast, but it has some like weird issues, errors around the edges. So like it's not as stable yet, but like it works, it's fast, and you can use it. And that's Ban
still-
Bundler.
This is 0.6 version, right? So they are still in like alpha. They are still not releasing version 1.0. So I'm fine with the facts that so from time to time it might not work. Something might be broken, and you know these kind of things. Still, comparing to some frameworks, libraries, and solutions that we are discussing from time to time in JS News, it's like these guys, these teams are doing pretty good job here, and it seems like it's stable most of the time. I had a friend that did this and that using Bun, and he was pretty happy with that. So it's like, I don't mind. You're still in version 0.
Yeah, of course.
All right, that's great. That's pretty important. Important news. Bun is still pushing things farther. That's
and
great.
faster.
Let's move. Yes, it's farther, faster, quicker. Yes, that's how they go. Let's move to another news. There is a Undesign release, Undesign 5.0. So let's talk about what's new in Undesign. I'm not gonna be talking a lot about it, but let's talk news. Undesign is a library that has around 14% of the market usage, according to State of the CSS report. So it's like not bad. It's really not bad. I had opportunity to work with it, so I'm going to shortly describe what they are updating, and then I'm gonna give my opinion. But I believe after the ban, what you've said, and I know what to expect from another news that's coming, that we are in destruction mode this week, and it's like we're not gonna be nice guys this week. So let's talk about Undesign. First thing is a brand new design token model, and this is nice. This is a system where you define your colors, and it automatically creates shadows and all the other colors that might be close to the color that you're using here for whole design system. And this design token model was upgraded. That's pretty cool. Most of the time working with Undesign is more like struggling with Undesign, and it seems that this might be an improvement. A few new components. Most interesting is tour. That's great. I like that, because if you have like library for styles, it's like I want to have everything in there and not to create anything from scratch. And tour components are those components that you can use to introduce your project to a new user, you know, or new functionality. These things that pop up and dim all the rest of your project. So that's okay. What's more, this is important. CSS in JS for dynamic theming. And they've described what they did and why. First things first, it's like, what? Why? Why did you get back to CSS in JS? It's like, I thought that we are trying to remove this.
Everyone is moving away from CSS in JS.
Yes, and they even linked this article why we're breaking up with CSS in JS. This was one of the first one that described what are the problems with this approach and what it tried to solve and when it failed, and they still decided to go with it. I think there are good reasons for them to move with it, because the system of updating their dynamic theme was how to say it. uh, well, it existed. There were some problems with that, but yes, but they've written in README that they prefer this problem because of the maintenance cost when working with CSS variables. Because earlier system in V3 and then upgraded in V4 was based on CSS variables, and it was very problematic to like be able to extend functionalities and provide new things. So they really did some digging into the topic, and they've created /design/CSS in JS library for their own usage, just to make it, as flawless as it could be while using the CSS in JS approach. So it will be easier for them to update,
Yeah.
and they've tried to optimize it in the same time.
I guess if you own your dependency, you're less dependent on your dependency because you can fix your dependency
Yes.
faster.
Yes, there are small updates and small updates in different packages, and most of the time you can read that currently we are not importing this and that because we have it in our core. Because we moved it to our core.
Yeah. We
So-
copied and
so, yeah.
pasted it.
Yeah, because it's better, it's stable, it's like whatever. Okay, so they did that. It's interesting. I think it's okay. It's okay because of the opinion that I'm gonna give in a second. And last thing is they replaced Moment.js with Day.js. Okay, that's great. Moment.js is in state
Dead.
of being just yes. Something like that.
Well, they wrote
okay,
like
but-
Moment.js guys, like creators, maintainers. They wrote that it's dead years ago.
Yes.
Like I think around
Yes.
like 2 or 3 years ago, I read an article like, please stop using Moment.js. Please use Day.js or DateFNS or like other things. Moment.js is not maintained properly. So yeah.
No, it's in maintenance state. It's like there are critical fixes and things like that.
Okay.
It's like jQuery. jQuery is never gonna die because jQuery still supports Internet Explorer 11, and it's like, I understand. Maybe you, maybe we are not building software for these environments, but world is big, and it's like from time to time
Sure.
there are projects that need to focus on that. So I will never say that jQuery is like, yeah, trash that thing, don't use it ever again. No, there are situations where you might actually want to use it because this library still supports Internet Explorer 11. I've read recently that there is focusing and blurring, like these events, this group of events is simulated in jQuery just to support possibility of using them in Internet Explorer, which is dead. So that's it. Okay, and now when it comes to opinion is like that. I'm going to read a piece of documentation. This is piece of documentation from the button. You have a button, and this button at the end of the documentation has the following information. Following the /design specification, we will add one space between. It's even written in broken English. I'm not going to comment on that. We will add one space between if button contains 2 Chinese characters only. If you don't need that, you can remove that by using config provider. So, if you're putting 2 Chinese characters in a button, they will automatically put space in there between those 2 characters. And just to comment on that, I have 2 people around me working with Chinese, speaking fluent Chinese, and they are not able to tell me why they are putting this space between 2 Chinese characters when you're putting them in a button.
This like I don't speak Chinese. He's not talking about me. I'm not speaking Mandarin. Nothing like that. But like I struggle with the concept. if I wanted to split my characters with a space, I would do that. Simple as that.
I was working with undesign. Currently, I'm lucky enough to not work with it anymore. I have different problems, but this change of moment.js to day.js, with day.js became pretty popular recently. There's like 1.5 million weekly downloads from npm, so it's like pretty big deal. But this is opinion, because I was working with Asians, with different Asian nations a lot, and Chinese people love Chinese frameworks and Chinese libraries, and day.js was created by Chinese guy, and undesign is Chinese create library, CSS library, and they just love it. Undesign 4 point whatever you name it, I was working with that. It's like it's a fatality. No, you just don't want this disease. If you don't want to use only the things that they provide, you don't want to use it at all. If you want to change colors, paddings, things like that, theming was broken, as they are changing their approach in v5. Theming was broken and was like constant fight and constant search for how to not use important in CSS, which isn't a way to go. So I'm not happy. I'm happy that they are moving things forward. Things are going to be easier for my friends from other teams that they are who are still using undesign. But personally, I don't wish well to this library. It's kind of attitude, like to do this kind of thing, to support your own language in this library. But on the other hand, of course, I am not forced to use it in any of my projects. So why do I care? But it's so interesting, isn't it?
Well, Julek, I'm right now entered the documentation for undesign, and I can see that the version at the right top corner is 5.5.0. So not
Yes, they've moved.
Yeah.
They've moved pretty quickly from 5.0. You know, when the release happens, then you're quickly bug fixing everything, and every few days there's a release of bug fixing all the stuff. So yeah, that's true. All right, and that will be definitely all about undesign. There's no need to talk about it anymore. Let's move to another news. I believe it's yours.
Yes, I am bringing a new news, and this is Gatsby 5.10. I worked with Gatsby a few years ago. I didn't like it back then, and I think it should be dead. So let me go on with the news. Like this is a pretty insignificant release. This is fixing. So okay, the biggest thing in this release is that they merged 40 PRs that are updating some dependencies. So if you are changing so many dependencies in your Gatsby right now, you can expect some regression. So like I'm glad that this is like a new release and not like a patch version, but like a minor version, right? Another notable, let's say, news from this news is like they decreased the SSR engine by the coupling shared modules, and they fixed some bugs. That's all. That's whole release. So I was wondering, like, why is this framework, right, still exist? Why does it exist?
Well, I can answer that.
Wait, I'm gonna bring us back to November 2022 when they announced Gatsby 5.0, and I'm gonna tell you what they've announced then, right? So then you will tell me if this is supposed to exist or not. They've announced back then partial hydration, which allows you to add interactivity to your completely static app. And this is using server components from React. And they added Slice API. So if you compare Gatsby 5.0 with like these two big announcements with, let's say, Next.js 13.4, the minor release with like huge array of announcements in a minor release to like this huge major release of Gatsby, then you tell me if Gatsby should still exist or not.
Well, actually, the reason is different, I believe, because of the plugins and templates. Gatsby is heavily opinionated framework. Like you knew that when you use it, like it's heavily opinionated. There are things that you like to do. Yeah, let's do it that way. No, you won't.
You will
I
do it the
understand that,
Gatsby way or no way.
Yes, but this is something that they were doing since the beginning of the Gatsby. There were always plugin systems, and there were problems if you wanted to use some new things like CSS in JS. I remember we were waiting for a plugin just to test it. This is the reason why with Peter we went with Next.js somewhere around version, I don't remember, it was 6 to 8, something like that, because that was the time when I was working with Peter. And Gatsby always has these plugin systems. And on the one hand, it's like you will not do things that are not in plugin system. On the other hand, everything that you want to do can be done instantly, just like that with the plugin system. And those boilerplates and these things that they are creating them, how they are creating them, they are just working. So this is really something that's important for stability of your project. It's like we are working for really large players, you and me. But if you have like 2-3 developers, or you need to create static sites really quickly, something like that, like Gatsby is very easy something to use. Like I remember that there were developers specializing like in using Gatsby only, and they didn't know much more than that, because Gatsby was like the first big thing that was built.
Yeah, I was going to say,
in a
like,
new
if you
way.
use Gatsby in a way you are referring to is like a plugin ecosystem, and like you are a Gatsby developer, then you are not a web developer. Broadly, you are specifically working in Gatsby. You know its ins and
Yes.
outs, and like you are able to accomplish things in Gatsby very, very quickly. But all the things that you just said, very compelling arguments. I can give that to you. Still think Gatsby should be dead. I don't want to talk about Gatsby anymore. Like Gatsby 5.10. That was my news about Gatsby. Let's move on.
Yeah, okay. I'm not gonna continue this topic then, because like they exist and we need to accept that fact and embrace it. All right, so another news is gonna be a pretty quick one. There were a few packages that released major updates, and major updates were done because of the depreciation of Node 12 or something like that. So first one is Fast.js. Fast.js allows us to use functions as Lambda functions on AWS or GCP. And release of version 8.0 is funny because they completely remove support for Google Cloud Functions. I just wanted to read how changelog looks like. First thing, features. Google, update to Google Cloud Functions v2. Google, attempt to support Google Cloud Functions v2. Broken still. Breaking changes. Google, deprecating Google Cloud Functions support. Bug fixes. Remove Google Cloud Functions from CI. Google, remove support for Google Cloud Functions. and they just removed all the support for Google Cloud Functions. I assume that there was too much work to update everything and to make it work with GCP because of the GCP updates. Well, this could happen. Another package is Ember.js. Ember.js is in version 5.0, breaking change. Dropped support for Node 14. Thank you. Another one. Jasmine 5.0 testing library. Dropped support for Node 12, 14, and 16. Dropped support for Safari and Firefox. Safari 14 and Firefox 91. So these are just updates. These are breaking changes because of dropping support for something that should not be maintained anymore. And that's all. But let's move to that. It's another week. It's another front-end framework. But yeah, let's talk about that. VanJS. It's called VanJS. So another week, another framework, and I think it's starting to get really interesting. Currently, we're at the stage where everything can be done with a framework or covered with library. Yeah, everything. I mean, literally everything. You're like not using vanilla JavaScript when you're working on a front end. End of the topic. Like if you're writing some ifs, then yeah, it's vanilla. Other than that, you're using something from
And
the libraries.
the wordplay in the name of this framework is VanJS, which is vanilla.js. I get it now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it's interesting. I believe it's gonna gain a lot of momentum very quickly because creator is Taoxin, is a senior staff engineer at Google. It's interesting. He wrote on VanJS. He wrote all about few words, but there's a process in Google that I believe allows Google to put their hands on the projects that their developers are creating, and Taoxin is proved that he created it in his own time and without any Google support. So all the legal stuff it belongs to him, and that's the end of the story. So what's the point with VanJS, which stands for Vanilla.js, as you've already said? It weighs 1.2 kilobytes. It's a grab-and-go reactive UI framework without React or JSX. And that's all. It's more than 100 times smaller than React. It's even many times smaller than Preact. It doesn't require installation configuration. It does not have dependencies, does not require transpiling or anything like that to use it. In a nutshell, best way to describe VanJS with the words of Taoxin: VanJS is the scripting language for UI, just like Bash is a scripting language for terminal. So I'm not going to go into details how it works. It's obviously written all with functions, looks almost like JSX, but doesn't use any magic.
I have something to say to that. Like, I look at the code for VanJS, and it looks very similar to way you can write JSX in Kotlin. You can write React in Kotlin. You just use functions. You just embed functions inside functions, and it looks just like that. Amazing.
Well, I must tell you that it might seem that it's something new, but everything's right now looks like that. If you use Svelte, it's gonna look like that. If you use obviously React, like everything looks like that right now. Like you're creating functions, you're returning HTML from this function, and that's all. You have some kind of state one way or another, like who cares? It will be very, very similar. All those things are different under the hood. And this is when it stands out, because VanJS is created by senior staff engineer, yes, but this guy is a backend developer, and his team is a backend developer, and he's handling something. This is something that's written on VanJS documentation, on about section. It's like he's handling something around 100 plus pipelines with his team and things like that. And the problem is that when they need to repair something or to create something for their own, like some dashboards or report pages, like, this kind of things that this kind of guy could also create. It's like he thought, like, you always need to go to some kind of framework. Like, give me a break. I don't need that anymore. And this is how VanJS was created. This is something that only works, is not like works wherever you want it. It's, as he stated, it's a scripting language for UI. End of the story. If you look at the code examples on tutorials or on examples, it looks very similar to like everything that you could see right now in the webs. Like everything is written that way. Like, you have function hello, it returns div, this div includes paragraph, and so on.
It might have a state, it may not have a state.
Yes, exactly that. Exactly that. But the difference is that this one weighs only 1.2 kilobytes, and there are speed tests on the documentation. Yeah, it's 1.2 kilobyte here. Preact is 10.8. jQuery is 88.2 kilobytes. Then you've got React DOM 130, and you know this React DOM and Shadow DOM approach is like getting out from the market. It's like we are all stopping kinda using it. As long as we have to, we do, but we are kind of stopping using that. And this library is totally focused on that. Like, let's forget about all the crap that we could use and we don't have to use to solve such a simple problems as displaying our UIs.
Yeah,
So I
especially
think this is gonna be interesting.
especially for this guy use case, right? If you are building Facebook, you want to have like a proper framework maybe. If you are building a dashboard for your pipeline, yeah, like it's much easier
At the end of the day, he created like full-blown framework that does everything that it needs to do. Other than that, you have all native things that are coming with JavaScript and JavaScript environment. So why would we try to wrap whatever in another whatever something to use it? Like what for? What for? Even if you look into state managers, it's the same. It's the same story. They are like creating smaller and smaller boilerplates, and they are getting like they are so small and soft right now. You can start rewriting your whole project, no matter how big.
Great bridge. Awesome bridge, man. I'm gonna talk about state management right now. I'm gonna talk about Legend
Let's
State.
go there.
Yeah, Legend State, again, nothing new. I've heard about them a year ago, around that. They are at the version 1.0 right now, V1. And the promise of Legend is 4 things. The first thing is that this is the fastest React State library. Before the episode, we looked at the data, at the like green table, and like from the table, from the examples that they give, it seems true that they are like the fastest. But like we previously said, like you can manipulate your test cases in some way. I'm not saying that they did. I'm just saying that just looking at the green table for your test cases is not like really that compelling to me.
Well, it's always good to see to like see some kind of comparison and things like that. But really, please be transparent. What was your environment? How did you test it? What were the test cases like? I see that at VanJS you just have build size. Okay, it's hard like to manipulate that. But if you're doing speed tests, I need to know everything about it.
So like hopefully and like probably they did all of the tests in the same like machine, on the same project, blah blah blah, right? But it's again like very dry green table of data. Second promise that they make is that it is very easy to use, and from the code examples that I saw, I would probably agree with that. This looks very similar to MobX. This looks very similar to Signals from Angular from a few weeks ago. You have your observables, your data. You have your observers, your React components. And you have your selectors to select the data from your observables. And then on top of that, you have get and you have set. That's all. You don't have actions. You don't have boilerplates. You don't have sagas, all that, dispatchers, nothing like that. And you can have, it's pretty simple. Third promise that they make is that it has fine-grained reactivity. And again, I wasn't playing with this, but from examples on their website, it seems like they can achieve very fine-grained renders on your components only where the data changed. So usually React re-renders a bigger sets of parents and children, and in this example for Legend, they achieved very fine-grained re-renders. From what they say, please let me know in the comments if you played with it and if you can actually agree with that. And the fourth promise that they make is that they have built-in persistence, which fine, okay, you do you, but I didn't really complain with like the dependency for MobX or dependency for Redux for persistent state. Like, this is another package, I can install it, and it's probably like in the same documentation, it's probably from the same authors as the like main package, so I'm fine with adding the dependency on my persistent state, but they have it built in here. But what's cool about that, it's what's coming next for the persistence. So they are working on something that will employ Firebase real-time database, and it will allow syncing between local persistent state and remote persistent state. So for the real-time database, you can be offline and then you are using your local state, and then when you get online again, the states will sync automatically just by using this one observable state object. But this is not in V1. This is just a promise in their docs about V1, but this is coming, like, I guess pretty soon. Yeah, so that's all about Legend State V1.
Okay, that sounds nice. It's cool that they have persistence. Like, yeah, as you said, it's like all this new state managements are all creating just functions. Question is how those functions are created. I'm still Team Jotai right now, and I am not gonna change my position real soon. If somebody is not gonna force me to use recoil, for example, that might be okay. But Jotai is like my way to go. They also have Atom with persistence, and it allows you to use session, local storage, or async storage, like whatever you pick. So I really don't care much about that. And the fact that they are still in 1.0 is really too early for me to use it anywhere. Like, my Jota is already in 2.0. But enough for the comparison. I see that the author is Jay Maestrish, creator, is very responsive, and there are only open issues. There are 23 open issues, and in almost all of them there is open discussion with this guy, and he's responding to every question and everything that's happening there. So I guess he wasn't overflow with questions right now, so he's able to do all of that. But it's really nice to see that this support right now is so strong, because those questions are like, Next.js 12 DOM not updating problem. Yeah, man, do that. Is there option for use fetch hook or working with React query? Yeah, man, do this and that, or we'll be working on that. There are even questions where he's answering that he doesn't know the answer yet, and he's gonna think about it. Yeah.
I think, like, from the like quick browsing while you were saying about the open issues, I think I know the answer. Like, the Legend State is an open source product from like Legend app, which is a paid service of some sort. So like this is not a like community project that struggles with money. I'm not sure if they're not struggling with money. I'm just saying that this is not a community project. This is a company project, which is open source, and it is backed by some paid product. So probably that's how they can be responsive. Like Next.js, right? Next.js is growing so rapidly because it has billions and billions and billions in backing.
Yeah, Legend Tab I see is a productivity tool.
Yeah.
Like task list, calendar, things like that. Pretty okay. I'm not surprised that they needed some kind of solution, and they've created this kind of solution and then open sourced it. That's great. That's great. Okay, so let's wrap it up. It's cool. But I still think that all state managements are like using the same right now, as long as something is not gonna get back to observables and this pattern that's going to JavaScript and utilize it somehow, then I don't see there'll be much to talk about all the Zustand, Recall, Jottai, Wottai, Pepparappa, all the same. All the same.
Yeah.
All right. And last thing, pretty short, I guess, is Rome 12.1. I like to talk about them, but I think a few things about them. So let us kindly remind what Rome is, or rather what it wants to be. Rome is, or was. Not sure. I should have checked that before recording, but it was backed up by Facebook, or it was like diverged from the Facebook as a standalone project. And ROM wants to be a combination of all tools that you need to start a project. It wants to be a bundler, compiler, tester, formatter, and linter. Currently, it's just a formatter and linter, and they are trying to provide some kind of analyze functionalities for your code. So this release just gave us another around 30 new rules for our formatter. There are already 140 rules. The philosophy is like you should not have to do any of that when you're starting a new project. And they are still providing new things, and they want to do that for HTML, CSS, JS, MDX, from what I remember. And they want all of that to be created out of the box without any kind of configuration, things like that. Also, it's written in Rome, so currently they are showing off the comparison with Prettier, and they are like 25 times quicker than Prettier. It's like, okay.
Yeah, fine.
I was thinking something like, is it really a big cost to run Prettier on your pipeline? How big your project has to be to run Prettier on your pipeline to see those cents or dollars move up on your pipeline? I understand it's another step and it needs to do its own job, but how big does it have to be? If you know the answer,
I
let us know
yeah.
below.
I'm really I've been let down by Rome. Actually, I've heard about Rome first time from you on this podcast 2 years ago, on another edition of this podcast 2 years ago. And it was like really, really hyped back then, and it had a lot of promises. Right now,
Yeah.
I think we are 2 years into the future from that point, and it's not as hyped anymore, but it still has a lot of promises and no deliverables, right? There's nothing delivered here. It's like another tool which is a little bit faster, but they've promised us a word when we need one tool for our JavaScript, and they didn't deliver. So
Yes, and in the meantime, so many things happened, changed, so many releases. Like, yes, I will think next time when I'll try to bring it into a show if it's even worth talking about it, because like currently it's a linter and formatter, but we want to be more. Like, okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Get back to me when you get back when,
When
you
you
have
are
more,
more.
okay? Yeah, when you are more. Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
All right, Łukasz, we have to wrap it up. We already
Yeah.
have enough for everybody to listen for that week. I think it was interesting week with all those updates. Many things have happened, and of course we have new framework. Of course we have new big libraries for state management, but still, I think that this news was interesting. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Bye.
That's great. And let's roll out the outro. Thanks. See ya. Hey, thanks for staying till the end. This is obviously outro message with all the links and information that could help you to support us or just contact us. And we greatly appreciate both. This channel is not supported by any big company or organization, so any donation is really gonna make a big difference and will allow us to expand and provide more content like that for you. You can contact us on social media like TikTok or Instagram for now. Also, we have special email address if you'd like to reach out to us or just give us feedback. We really appreciate that and we're looking forward to hearing from you. And if you really think that we've earned it, you can buy us a coffee. Link is here. So thank you again. All the links are down in the description and see you next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe.